Who is your daddy? I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
All right, guys. What have been some of your favorite remakes or remasters, or if you want to throw in there expansions or DLCs of this year? So remakes, remasters. If you want to throw in there like compilations of some of your favorite games, what have been some of your favorites from this year? And just here's a couple that came to mind as I was making this list. Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, The Collection of Mana, Crash Team Racing, Divinity Original Sin 2, Definitive Edition, Dragon Quest XI S, got this Definitive Edition as well, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Medieval, Ni no Kuni Remastered, Nier Automata, the game of the Yorha, very clever edition, Onimusha Warlords, that was in January. You kind of forgot that one that happened. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy, Resident Evil 2, and it's kind of unfair to include that one, but it's a remake. Team Sonic Racing,
the remake.
Same thing with Legend of Zelda. I mean, anyway, and then World of Warcraft Classic. For me, I've got a couple of these that I've really loved, but I think my favorite remake has got to be Zelda for me personally. Although not too far behind it, just because I admire the quality with which they remade it, was Resident Evil 2. But Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, very nostalgic for me on the Game Boy back in the day. Love that game, and I think this one is beautiful, plays great. It's just as fun as I remember. But I want to throw a little attention to Collection of Mana as well. You get a whole bunch of games for very little money. I think it's on sale right now, actually. And Collection of Mana is pretty good compilation as well. What else? Who else has played some remakes or remasters or DLCs?
Well, I think what I want to point out is with Resident Evil 2 and even Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, I think what those two games did is they didn't just upgrade graphics. Like, they really changed the way you played those games. Like, yeah. I didn't play Link's Awakening, but I've heard horror stories of, like, the gameplay and, like, stuff you had to
on the Game Boy, it was horrifying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
well, you had two buttons to work with, right?
Exactly.
That's right, yeah. But you had 1,000 items to use.
Exactly. So I can only imagine how many times you guys were going into the pause menu and stuff like that. So
and it was all green and gray.
So yeah.
Wasn't that pretty.
Until we got the color version. We got
the
color
that's true. That did look good.
But for me, it's hands down easily, like, not even a surprise, Resident Evil 2. I would say next would probably be... I actually enjoyed Dragon Quest XI. Did I beat it? No.
I was gonna say that on the Switch, the re-release.
Yeah, but
yeah, I really enjoyed that game quite a bit.
Hey Kyle, so you got it on the Switch? Did you try switching back and forth between the old school graphics just to experiment with it to see what it looks like?
Not once have I done that. No. I really wanted to too. That's not even like a
the
diss.
game is
like,
so
I don't
beautiful.
Want to see that
though.
crap.
Really
but it's absolutely. I'm a big fan of Kira doing like the work and everything like that. So like I just wanted to see that. Like I didn't ever want to switch. So it runs really well though. I play all in handheld and it's I can't believe how big and giant that game is and how good it looks like on the Switch. It's just like that system always surprises me.
Anybody get Ni no Kuni on the Switch?
I got it for the Switch now.
I have it on the PS4.
It's on sale right now.
It's on sale for like $35, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I already have it on the PS4. So.
Dan Phillips, what's been some of your favorite remake, remasters, or expansions this year? Anything?
I really want to say Ni no Kuni. That was probably like one of my favorite PS3 games. I haven't played it yet, but the visual upgrades look great. I wouldn't mind going back to it. I'm happy they did it. I just haven't got to this one, but yeah, like you guys have said, Resident Evil 2 was probably my favorite remake that I played this year. I just thought they did a very nice job with that. And, Legend of Zelda, I only probably played half the game on my 3DS, so I did suffer through the pressing start. I think even on the 3DS, you only got 2 buttons, because I think it was just the port of the Game Boy version. Oof. But, and... I liked it for what it was, never got all the way through it. I thought the remake, definitely made it playable in this day and age. And what it did for that, made it a really good experience. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite Legend of Zelda game, but I thought it was a good remake.
Nice. Jeff or Kyle, both? Kyle, you already said a little bit. Was that your pick
Kyle was.
I mean, Dragon Quest is cool. I would say I'm sorry, everybody. It's probably going to trigger some people. The Switcher is really good. If you really want to play that game if you really want to play that game on the go, like it's kind of black magic how they got that working.
But I didn't include it here because it's not really a remake or remaster or expansion. Really, it's just
I guess it's really more of a re-release, huh?
Yeah. But
more of a port.
But it's worth calling out because it's a great one to have on the go.
Well, and I guess that's Dragon Quest 11 as well is kind of a re-release as well. But yeah, I guess if I had to choose one, it would be. I mean, I really like Legend. I mean, Link's Awakening is really cool. It's very Twin Peaksy to me. I like how it's like self-aware it is. The weird guys in town, like that's what reminds me of Twin Peaks, and like you
a lot more Mario references than most Zelda
there are,
games.
but like there's even like really weird like references where it's like, hey, I'm gonna be lost in the forest later. Hope you find me. And then you find that guy later, and he's like, I got lost, and I'm like, yeah, you told me, you weirdo. Like, it's just so I just love it. I think it's really weird and it's cool. Like, and that's why I like Majora's Mask so much. Like, I like the weirder like. I don't know, dreamscapey type of.
You probably liked the Minish Cap as well, then, right? That was a good one.
I do
love the Minish Cap. Yeah. That was one of my favorite handheld
Again,
ones.
another kind of
super
wonky
fun.
one.
That was
super
great.
wonky, yeah.
Jeff, what about you?
Everybody already mentioned Resident Evil 2, but that's hands down my favorite. I don't think anything competes with that. And Link's Awakening, I really
set
like
the bar so high for what a remake could be and should be, didn't they? I mean, they just
I agree with that. I think that may be one of the greatest remakes of all time, Resident Evil 2.
Yeah. Yeah,
Kratos, is that? I'm guessing that's going to be yours.
I wanted to specifically piggyback, off of like that point of like, this is like exactly they've set the bar, like it needs to be exactly that. Yep. Which is kind of what 7 Remake is to me. Like, I'm still very scared about how bad that could be potentially, but everything I've seen, it looks great. Is like blowing my mind, and it's almost like they took like whatever Capcom was thinking. Like, it's almost like they were at the same meetings. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do that to 7 Remake. Like,
I'm just sitting here trying to go, how do you stretch that Shinra story for 40 hours? You know, just that first act that's like 12 hours long. How do you stretch that across 40 hours?
They're going to expand, add new characters, maybe even some
I'm into it.
scenes.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
I know
probably
they can pull
really
it off.
20 hours with 20 hours of like side quests.
Well, they're saying it's going to be upwards of 40 to 50.
Absolutely.
So.
I hear it's a full blown Final Fantasy game, but I don't know what that means anymore. Also, because Final Fantasy 15, you could be.
They're just gonna force you to walk the whole time.
I did want to give a shout out though to 2 of them. Final Fantasy 8 remastered. The fact that even exists is mind blowing.
I just bought that. Square's got a sale on the eShop right now.
Well, because like the story was,
and
I don't know if it was legitimately confirmed or not, but like I guess like that game was never backed up in any way.
Yeah, so the source code was gone.
Yeah, they said that the source code. Yeah, so like most of the game was just gone. So like it seems like they had to rebuild the game from the ground up, which is crazy. That is so the fact that exists is amazing, and also Onimusha, because that was my first PlayStation 2 game, and I love that game. I don't think it's sold well though, so I don't think we're gonna see the rest of them, unfortunately. But
I'm really sad. I'm really sad we're not getting new Onimusha.
I know
it's a really rich world.
Dude, an Onimusha game in like right now would be insane.
That's Capcom too, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't. I just feel like they didn't hit their own quality standard with that one compared to the Resident Evil remakes that they're doing.
Well, I think, and that was just a re-release too. They didn't do anything to that game. I think if they like
the
took
HD
the time,
treatment, right? So
it did. Yeah. I think if they took the time to really remake that game, I think we would all be. Oh my god! I think Onimusha could be the biggest thing ever if they actually took a stab at it.
Think of
Daniel. You've got Final Fantasy VII remake and Resident Evil 3 coming out within like 30 days of each other. You're just gonna be giggling like a little girl for the entire spring.
I'm gonna literally be crying the entire month of March. Yeah, and then I'm gonna be terrified in April.
For all of April. Yeah. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Did I miss anybody? Everyone shared their favorites?
Yep.
We good? Okay. All right. Listen, I think I've got enough time to do our last one to wrap this up. I'd like to avoid setting up yet one more recording session, but I don't want to assume that you guys are all available for about another hour probably to get through this. Are you good, or should we wrap it up?
Let's do this in 10 minutes. Clean 10.
Yep.
I think we could wrap up Game of the Year in like 10 minutes.
Yep, I'm with these guys. Easy 10, maybe
it's
15.
Greedfall, so
you guys are nuts. You guys are
crazy.
It really is. Greedfall. It's obviously observation. It's
Rocket.
I put Crackdown 3 up there, you know.
All right, here we go. We're gonna jump into our shared ranked list of the best overall game of 2019. We've talked about a lot of these in terms of just the combat, the visuals, the story, the characters, all that kind of stuff. But now it's time to get down to the overall game. What were our favorite games and how can we've already made a case for some of these. We probably don't have to dig all the way into all of them, but we could at least, maybe there's something else we have to say like, hey, yes, I was okay with it leaving the visuals list, but overall as a game, it's got to stay in there, things like that. So pretty much every game we've mentioned, and probably some that I forgot to include, isn't going to be included as something we could potentially leave on this list from other categories. So if they made other categories, they could be on here as well. So to save us some time, we don't have to eliminate things necessarily, but here's what I think we could do. I think we could essentially do what I would love it if the college football season playoff committee would do, and that is you each get to select. There's 6 of us, right? So we each get to pick one game that has to be on this list,
Okay.
and then we'll see if we can't, as a group, select the other 4 and get our 10.
Okay.
So let's look through the list, or just think through what are the games in my top 3 that I really want to make sure at least my top 1, if not 2 and 3, somehow get represented. There's going to be some crossover. So how about we go alphabetical like we did our very first time around? We'll start with Dan Freitas. What is a game that you have to lock in as a top 10 overall game of the year?
That I have to, Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
For sure. So.
All right. What's going on there?
right.
Dan Phillips.
Game that's got to be on my list is Star Wars Jedi.
Good game. I love it. Awesome.
Derek.
Don't say it. Don't you say it.
Ball! Green ball!
I have power.
Not happening, bro.
Well, you know what?
No, I'm gonna go Borderlands 3.
I was gonna say, why don't you put Anthem on there too?
That's fair. That's fair.
Listen, there's the real list, and then there's Derek's troll list. Those are 2 very different lists.
Actually, can you make like an actual list there and just put Greedfall as the topic, or at the top, and then just put Greedfall in all the spaces?
Yeah. What's the best Greedfall?
Greedfall.
All right. Sorry, I lost track of where we were. Derek. Oh, so now it's Jeff.
This is where I shock everybody. I'm gonna go with Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds.
Okay. All right.
Ooh.
Okay.
Not Wilds, are you sure? Or do you want to?
That's why it's dangerous to do this, Tim, because I could have really destroyed this list by putting Greedfall.
I'm giving a lot of trust to you guys, knowing that you can handle making selections like this.
Yeah, trying to be objective. Yeah.
Kyle, what would you add onto this list?
I got to go Control first.
Control.
Derek is furious right now.
I know. That's why I did it. I know.
Insane with
he made me buy. He
Make
made
him
me
matter.
buy Code
Death
Vein
Stranding
tonight.
next.
So.
Yeah, Kyle, as much as I
He
want to
forced
hate
me
you,
to buy Code Vein.
just keep buying the games I tell you to buy.
All right. So
You are under my control.
Get it?
Yeah,
Get it?
So
Yeah,
just
nice.
so you guys can kind of get an idea of where, like, what games have not been added yet that I would want. I'm kind of battling between 3, and they're so different from each other. I want to include a Plague Tale. I already made a passionate case for it earlier. I stand by that. I want to include Fire Emblem, and I want to include Gears 5. So those are 3 that I'm kind of thinking through and trying to battle right now. Which one of those do I want to save?
So objectively, which is the best?
I think objectively, I've got to put Gears 5 on this list.
Gears 5 is the
agree.
game that I would definitely fight for to be on this list, so I got to back you up on that.
I think I've got to put Gears 5. I think we talked about it for almost every category, and I would be okay with it landing near the top of almost all of these categories that we went through, except for like RPG, obviously. But most of the categories,
we're going to end up with 12 games, right? There's
probably
no
will.
way we're going to get 4.
We probably will. All right, so there's our 6 that we've each kind of said it's got to be on this list. Actually, the one I would have included if it weren't mentioned was Star Wars. Was going to be my pick to make sure it was included. So we've got Resident Evil 2, Star Wars, Borderlands 3, Outer Worlds, Control, and Gears 5. Let's see if we can get 4 more games. If we really have to, we can do 6. But what else needs to go on this list?
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Death Stranding.
Yep.
100%.
Yup. Yes.
Boo.
Yep. Sorry.
See, it's so you got 3 people that are adamant, and then you got 3 that are like, No, it would not
There's
make
just-
my top 10.
There's just 3 that don't care. That's the thing. Like I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to it. I
Don't
haven't
care
played
to
it.
Bill.
No,
I'm just not
you-
interested,
you're playing
and I
nice
haven't
now, but you
experienced
have
it. I'm not
zero
gonna weigh
interest in
in,
playing
but I would not fight for it.
No.
I'm putting it there for right now. It might get booted depending on what else gets mentioned.
How dare you?
Like Outer Wilds, yeah. Outer Wilds has to be in there,
Probably
obviously, because you
No.
know
Yeah,
you got the
of course.
radio gun and you gotta
Pass.
find clues. And
Okay, guys, Sekiro has to be in there.
Yes.
Object-
I think
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
I say so. I say
absolutely.
so. Yeah.
If you're gonna-
100%.
if you're gonna put it on the list-
1,000%.
If you're gonna put it on the list, at least pronounce it correctly. All right.
Sekiro.
Sekiro.
Suck.
Sekiro.
Sakura.
All right. I'm locking
There you
off.
go.
I suck at it, but I love it.
All right. We of course have to put Crackdown 3 up there.
Obviously.
Of course.
Okay.
I would put it at 13.
Hey, do we have a lot of objection? Even though it was
Fire
not one that
Emblem,
someone
I hear
saved, can we
amazing
put
things
Fire
about.
Emblem up there?
Sure.
Is that-
Yeah.
Gotta put. I mean, that's in my top like. I keep on saying that top 5. Let's say top
For
5.
all the
Kyle has
praise
8
that
games
people,
in his top 3.
yeah, for
I
all the
think
praise
Devil
that
May
people
Cry
get,
5
I
might
think
top
it
be on
could
this.
be on the list.
What'd you say, Derek?
I think Devil May Cry 5 needs to be on this
Yeah,
list.
absolutely.
I think Devil May Cry 5 100% deserves
Yeah.
to be on
I
this list. Some of
would
the best action
argue.
games of all
I
time.
would argue harder for Disco Elysium just because it's on a lot of people's, but
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's touched it, and it's
just-
also it might not be an accessible game for a lot of people. So
Listen, we're not Giant Bomb, all right? So we're
it's a good
we're
game.
okay.
It is good. It is
Burn.
good. Not gonna lie, it's good.
Burn.
Good. But it's what it is.
All right. So there's some games that we haven't mentioned, and that right now, because we've got 10, would be left off the list. That I'm gonna just based on the conversations we've had. Again, this is not like industry wide.
100% be on
But,
mine, but I'm the only one who would
things
put it
like-
on that.
Exactly. So things like Plague Tale, Call of Duty, Code Vein,
Judgment.
Judgment. Yeah, the case
Judgment,
that was made
yeah.
for that was pretty strong.
Top 3 for me, guys.
Every game is Kyle's
Kyle
just
has
top 3.
27 games in the top 3, guys.
I'm really passionate. Leave me alone.
Hey, let's not forget about
Kingdom
Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Yes. Kyle, what are your top 3 cries of this year?
Of this year.
Oh my god.
Well, I'll get
Emotional
back to
name.
you on that one. Yeah.
No, I meant like actual moments of crying.
It was all 3 during this podcast
Okay.
when Dust Train went number 1.
Sure,
so,
sure.
Yeah.
What about
You could argue
Luigi's
Luigi.
Mansion 3?
Yeah, you could argue that one.
I would put that. Yeah.
To me, that deserves at least to be.
I think
At
so.
least
It needs
a
to get that
mention.
like that honorable mention. I'm kind of
Yeah.
really putting together a little bit of an honorable mention list. That's kind of what this is.
A
right
shout
now.
out list.
More
Well,
than
it's-
11.
You know,
would be on
one
it.
more I would throw on a shout out list was the Division 2.
Yes.
For the improvements they made over the first game,
I think it was very.
Yeah.
I thought it was really improved over number 1.
yep,
yeah.
it was
I
so
agree.
good. They did a great job with it. That's how to do a sequel.
I agree. Yeah, and the map was just automatically better. Like you're like,
Oh,
oh, this
so
first
much
level
better.
already is like way better.
I feel like we haven't figured out Endgame yet for any of these types of games.
Yeah.
Like we haven't figured it
Well,
out.
I think console
like, we'll get
gamers
there.
move on
You know,
too
yeah,
fast.
I thought it was.
I
They
think
do.
Derek,
That's true.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Actually, I think it's impossible to keep the attention of gamers, console ones specifically. So-
Link's
Destiny is
Awakening.
the only game that. Oh, I mean Rocket League, but Rocket League's not that style of game. But like Destiny is that
Sure.
only game that I continuously come back to beyond just story. And
Yeah.
there's even the Division, I enjoyed it and stuff like that. For some reason I just move on from all those other games.
Yeah.
Me too. I end up moving on as well, but I remember putting in at least 50 hours in Division in that first 2.5, 3 weeks, just with everybody playing and stuff. I'm just like, oh, this is so great. And then it just kind of peters off at some point. So.
You know what's
Well,
interesting
because
is
we get the luxury of having, and I'm not saying PC gamers don't. I don't know. Maybe there's a different breed. My brother would understand it better, but I like to experience as many games as I can, and
Me too.
if I get stuck on a game too long, then I miss out on. Especially now, my time's limited. I miss
Yeah.
out on experiencing all these games. So that's why I personally move on all
Well,
the time.
yeah, I'm the
You know,
same
we-
way. I mean,
I feel you. I feel you.
there's a game that we haven't really talked about with any of these categories because it didn't really fit anywhere,
Oh,
and that's Super
Yeah.
Mario Maker 2.
I really wish I would have pushed for that for like best multiplayer or whatever. Actually,
Yeah, I mean that's one of those ones that's good multiplayer, but
it really
that's a good
not
call.
even just multiplayer, but community wise,
Yes.
like that
Yeah.
literally is the lifeblood of that game.
Yep.
And just I've sat in here with my friends and played for hours, just like, okay, choose that level. Hey, type in Game of Thrones. Let's see if there's any Game of Thrones level. You know, it's so fun to just like download like bad or even good levels and just play them.
Yep.
And we were sharing them and Fathers with the Grind for a while. Everyone was playing each other's level. It was fun, you know, like it was a cool communal game.
Very.
So I think this is just me. I think it would be fun. We've got, I think, a solid 10.
Yeah.
Why don't
It's a good
we
10.
with this group that we have below? And I think you can get rid of Arise and Yoshi. I don't think anybody's going to defend this. But with the group below, we pick 2 from there and we just create the top 12.
All right, so
We
for those
already
of you
have
who are just
11,
listening,
don't
I
we?
apologize because you're
We have 11 now?
No, we got 10. Never mind. Sorry.
Okay.
So for those of you who are just listening, in our top 10 right now, in no particular order, we've got Resident Evil 2, Star Wars, Borderlands 3, The Outer Worlds, Control, Gears 5, Death Stranding, Sekiro, Fire Emblem, Devil May Cry 5. And then underneath that, and what I would kind of consider an honorable mention list that Derek's saying we could nominate 2 to make the jump.
Like
And
the 2 that we nominate have to be 11 and 12. We can't move
that's
them
totally
up.
fair.
Okay.
But we've out of that list, we've got A Plague Tale, Call of Duty, Code Vein, Judgment, Kingdom Hearts 3, Luigi's Mansion 3, Mortal Kombat 11, The Division 2, Observation, Pokemon, Super Mario Maker 2, and Link's Awakening. So if I got that conversation started, for me, the one that's not in our top 10 that is certainly near the top of my list is, of course, A Plague Tale, like I mentioned before.
I'm with you on that.
But
I'm with you on
am.
that too.
Oh, are you? Okay. All right. I was going to just
That's
say
3.
it doesn't have to make it, but
I mean,
all right.
what
I
we
like
could
that.
do is just remove Borderlands 3 entirely and put Plague's Tale there. So.
Oh, we could, but we're not going to.
I like Borderlands 3 though a lot.
I
Yeah, it's
like
fun.
it.
I like it.
It's fun.
I
You know
like
it's
it
fun. High pitch
low
fun.
on the list.
It's
I-
fun. It's fun.
I'm
Can I
okay
just
with
say
that.
this?
Way low, like number 10.
We're going to
okay.
talk about Borderlands 3 because it's in our top 10. It was legitimately added
I like
to the
it a
list.
lot.
We're going to talk about it. But
I do like
I will
that
say
game.
this. I couldn't tell you if you dropped me in the middle of Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3 outside of some visual changes. I couldn't tell you which one I'm playing. I'll be honest with you.
You could dodge in one of them. Come on, Tim.
All right. Anyway. Okay. So I love A Plague Tale and I love Call of Duty. I was surprised how much I loved Call of Duty this year. The rest of them I think are great. And I think like what Dan Phillips said about Division 2 is totally true. What Jeff has said about Observation is forced me to buy it later tonight. I had a lot of fun with Super Mario Maker 2. Dan, you made some fun levels. Even just playing random, like highly voted levels of other creators out there has been fun. Making your own levels is finally fun. So I loved that and Link's Awakening. So there's a lot here to love, but for me, it's those 2 at the top of that list. A Plague Tale and Call of Duty would be my 11 and 12. What about you, Kyle?
For my 11 and 12, goodness, I would probably choose Judgment and Kingdom Hearts 3.
Freitas?
You know, it's funny because like I know I keep like making fun of Borderlands 3, but I would literally take any of these games and replace Borderlands 3 with them. Just saying. Literally any
It
of
can
them.
be a
And I
level
haven't even
12.
played. I
Did
haven't
you
even
play
played-
Borderlands 3, Daniel?
No, but I mean,
So
Hey,
shut up.
I would do the same thing with Death Stranding. So I'm just going to float that out there.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay,
How-
that's
you
fair.
don't touch
See,
that.
we gotta
Yeah.
choose our battles
How
here.
I
you know?
would too. Get Death Stranding out of that.
everything that BB
Get it out of
did,
here.
everything
Get it
that
outta
BB
here.
did for Norman Reedus, all right, everything. He
All right.
did.
All right.
Daniel.
So I would do Kingdom Hearts, and
If you don't say Mortal Kombat 11, you're an idiot.
yeah, well, you already called me an idiot, so I'm not listening to you. Honestly, you know what? I'll just throw this in there. I'll say Pokemon because I legitimately had a lot of fun with the new Pokemon game. Is it as
More
open?
than Luigi's Mansion 3?
Yeah,
Okay.
I really like
I put
Luigi's
40,
Mansion
I put
3.
45 hours in a Pokemon.
Like the
Sword,
thing
so,
for me
yeah.
is like
Loved it.
Pokemon
Kingdom
just
Hearts
scratches
2.
that itch, that addiction of like, oh, I collected a little creature. What is he going to look like when he evolves all these X amount of times? Like,
Kyle
It's my
Neely
favorite.
has.
It's one of my favorite palette cleansers every year.
Kyle,
Like
did you
racing
say
games.
you said Kingdom Hearts 3 is one of yours as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kingdom Hearts 3.
All right. So Derek, what about you?
I'm gonna go, and again, I have a feeling A Plague's Tale is gonna be top 10 for me once I beat it. But for now, Code Vein is definitely my 11, and Mortal Kombat 11 would be 12.
Dan Phillips, what would be yours that you would add on to this list?
I would put Kingdom Hearts 3 at 11, and then A Plague's Tale at 12.
And Jeff.
So I'm not gonna vote for. I'm not going to throw my vote away at one that I like observation. I'm not going to do that because I want to vote for something that stands a chance. So this is really tough. Plague Tale, since it stands a chance.
Oh.
And who's left to vote?
Just you.
Damn. All right. So it's not going to make it, but Judgment would have been the other one.
Well, that's 2 votes for
I like it,
Judgment.
I like
If
it.
you
might
know in your
actually
heart
make
that
it.
you want to pick Kingdom Hearts, Jeff.
Nope.
So
No, he doesn't.
I think he really did want.
if
Kingdom
if it
Hearts.
were if it were what I wanted, it would have been like Luigi's Mansion and Observation. But that's just like, why bother?
all right, so we want to bid a very fond farewell to our honorable mentions for our Game of the Year top 12. And those would be Call of Duty, Code Vein, Judgment, Luigi's Mansion 3, Mortal Kombat 11, The Division 2, Observation, Pokemon Sword and Shield, Super Mario Maker 2, and Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening.
Those are
You're
some
all
good-
awesome games.
Those are some
but,
good ass honorable mentions.
Definitely,
Yeah, those are great.
definitely more awesome than Borderlands. Actually.
And the game you guys are going to regret not putting on any of these lists, Greedfall.
Oh my
Let's give a
God.
shout out for Greedfall.
Derek, that has its
The
own.
last
You're all
list.
going
one.
to regret it
A
in
last
2020
shout out.
when you buy the game for $5. You're all going to regret it.
Derek, I said it can have its own list. I mean, come on.
Greedfall, yeah.
1 through 10.
One,
All
two,
right.
10.
So we've got it's top 12, but we already know our 11 and 12th place. And I'm going to
So
put
highlight them, bold them.
Kingdom Hearts and Plague Tale at 11 and 12. It doesn't really matter the order, but we'll put them in the
Leave it
order
out.
of people who have played it. That's fine. All right. So our the other games we have to order is Resident Evil, Star Wars, Borderlands 3, Outer Worlds, Control, Gears 5, Death Stranding, Sekiro, Fire Emblem, and Devil May Cry 5. Who wants to get us started with what should go where?
Well, I'm going to tell you guys, since I don't know if we're doing our official top 10, Borderlands 3 is actually my number 1 game. But clearly, I'm alone in that. It's the game
I like
had...
Borderlands a lot. Yeah, I think it's fun.
I like
Yeah,
it
but I
too,
think
it's not
for
number one.
everybody's
Not high, not
individual
number one,
lists,
yeah.
it's not as high. So I'm okay with it dropping to like a 10 or a 9 to start with. But just know it ended up being my number 1 game because I just had the most fun with it. And I'm actually
Hey,
going
fun's
back
everything.
and playing the DLC.
That is
so.
a legitimate case, I think, to make for a favorite game.
You
is
should
I
build
had the most
all of your list off of how much fun you're having. With it.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, totally. All right, but for right now, I kind of agree with that. Oh, you know what? I'm not sure if this background will work. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay, cool. So Borderlands, I'm going to move down to about the 9-10 spot for right now. What was I going to... I was going to throw something else out there. It sounds to me like Resident Evil, Star Wars, Outer
Worlds are
Whoops.
locked in top 3 to me.
Those are
What
top
else was
three
kind of... I
probably.
think Death Stranding was up high for half of us, but not the other half. So I can't see it
Yeah.
going much higher than 5 based on...
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I can't. By average, yeah.
Maybe-
I think Control probably had more
I would
Probably
support
more
Control
praise
more
than
Death Stranding.
Death Stranding.
Yeah. I think Control's probably a 4 or 5 spot, along with Gears 5. They're probably right beside each other, like they currently are, honestly.
I'd move the list up as is.
I mean, to me, if you move Control, Gears,
Maybe
and
we will be
Death
done in
Stranding
10
up,
minutes.
I would be okay with that.
Say, what about Death Stranding?
And in Fire Emblem, not a lot of people can speak towards. So I mean, like if you want to put that at 9, like that's fine.
The
you
big
know.
question,
I
I
would,
think,
I
is-
would say it's top. I would say it's in the top 5.
I think
but,
it's
like,
another game where if we all played it,
Yeah.
I love Fire Emblem games.
I do
but
too.
I do
I've got-
not
Again,
invest
I'm
a lot
gonna
of
owe
time.
Tim and Derek an apology for 2 different games. Y'all are gonna owe me an apology.
Dude,
for
I-
Fire Emblem once
The
y'all get
thing
to
with
it.
Fire
So-
Emblem is it's one of the few games that I can't find something to dislike about it. Like I can't find something negative about it. Now, if you don't like that style of game, that totally makes sense. Like,
totally,
Too
yeah,
anime?
absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah,
Too
that's why I'm
anime,
never
too
gonna play it.
strategy. Yeah.
like if you don't,
I
whether
get
it's
that.
too anime or maybe some people legitimately don't like turn-based strategy.
That's me.
They just
That's
No,
don't
me.
people
like
hate that. Yeah.
And
That's me
that's
right
totally fine. I mean, you're gonna miss.
It's not fine,
You're gonna
but no,
miss
it's-
out on some of the
it's
best
a thing.
games ever.
Lies.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Except I did play South Park, but that's because you're throwing farts and stuff every day.
Oh,
That's
South
true.
Park's so good.
By the way, Jeff, as a big
That's
indie
true.
fan, you might like Into the Breach, even though that is a turn-based strategy.
That's the only reason I haven't touched it is because I'm like, oh, it's turn-based.
But it's turn-based, also roguelike. Anyway, it's interesting. All right, so Fire Emblem, that's a tough one for me because I if I were to have finished it before this conversation, because it's one of those ones I'll probably play throughout the winter, then it would probably be higher on. I'd push for it to go higher, but I think around 7 or 8, maybe even 9 is about right. What about Devil May Cry 5? Should that
I
go
love
above?
Devil May
It's one of the greatest action games of all time.
Is that
I'm saying.
above
It's
Control and
so
Gears
good.
5 and Death
No.
Stranding? Is it above those?
No.
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 Sorry, I
mean-
didn't mean to be so dismissive, but
No, and I said no immediately too. So
It
no.
is for me. Well, it'd go Death Stranding, Devil May Cry, then Control, but that's just me. So
Okay.
that's just
Clearly,
me.
it's just you. Nobody else is that
Just me.
dumb.
Just me.
I mean, I would say Death Stranding, Control, Devil May Cry, but that's not far off. So
Okay.
Yeah.
I would put it. I think I'd put Control
I would-
above it because Control has elements of combat and all these other things that I think, and story and characters and the setting, and I think it does just a little bit better on everything altogether than Devil May Cry 5 does. That being said, it's not that far behind it, but I would put Gears 5 above both of those.
Yep, I'm good with that.
I like Gears 5.
I like Gears 5 over Control and
Jeff
Devil
and
May
Kyle,
Cry.
did you guys play Gears 5?
yeah, I did.
I did. Yeah,
I'm kind of
yeah,
baffled right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Tell me
That's
what
fine.
it is about
Yeah.
Gears 5 that you're thinking this doesn't.
I mean,
really
I just
do.
don't.
It's
I
a
don't
good
like Gears
shooter.
in
It's just
general,
really good.
But like, and I've played every single one of these games, and it's not something I'm like I hate this. I'm just like, well, this isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's fun, And
Yep.
I think it's I think it's like one of the best looking games ever. Every time it comes out, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's about all it is.
You
I
didn't
think-
connect
with
the characters.
I think
or the
it's a
story
really,
at all?
really. I don't know. It just didn't really resonate with me.
I think
But
5
that doesn't
is
mean it's
the-
not good. That's just a personal.
I think
preference.
5 is the
I'm
best
not-
of them, but I mean, Control and Death Stranding in particular, because that's what we're talking about putting it above,
I mean, there's a
right?
moment at the end of
I
Gears
just
5
feel like those are just
that
way better.
I thought it had a more powerful choice and narrative moment that I've played probably any game this year, where you had to make that choice and
That was a
and the-
hard choice.
and the after effects of it. I mean, dude, I thought Gears 5 really ticked all the boxes that before they hadn't. Things like story and good character development. Gears 4 was a step in that direction. I thought
But-
Gears 5 took it all
yeah.
the way.
I felt
I
like
agree.
the thing is, and I'm not going to throw out like Microsoft bias or anything like that because I don't think that's what it is. But
Let's
I
go,
do
Xbot.
feel-
Let's do it.
But I do feel like this game got to the level of like an Uncharted.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's better or not that. I'm saying at that level. Like they finally got to. They already had gameplay. They already had universe, all that.
I
But
think the gameplay is awesome.
But
in
I
these
think they
games,
finally got to that place where they could actually tell a story with characters that I cared about. That's what I'm talking about. I think they finally got to that level.
I didn't beat the game. I only played the first 4, maybe 5 hours of it. It just nothing about it hooked me.
Did you
really,
get to-
personally. And again, personally,
Did you get to
Yeah.
any of the open areas, Kyle?
I think I got to the first open area, and that's where
They have a
Yeah,
couple
'cause
of
that's
those.
in Act 2. So if he played 4, or
and not
5
because, and
hours-
I didn't stop because of the open area. That's
Yeah.
just where I naturally.
No, that's totally
stopped,
fine. It feels like they were experimenting a little bit with what if we gave them a little more freedom than we typically do in a Gears game. And I thought
Uncharted did something similar to
Uncharted
kind
did
of call
something-
back to that.
I was just
Yeah.
going to compare it to that to say I think they did it well enough that it didn't detract from my normal experience with the game. I appreciate that they're trying some new stuff, but in general, I don't really need them to do that. Like I don't really need Gears or
Well, and,
Uncharted to do that.
We were talking about preferring like linear stories, so like not like, and I prefer like, hey, you're good at what you're doing. Uncharted and Gears, like just send me down the hallway to kill people. Like don't I don't need to be in some giant hub world, So, but those aren't the reasons I don't like those games. Or those moments or anything. It's
So
just,
let me ask you guys this:
not my professional choices.
Kyle and Jeff, and I guess Dan Freitas too, because you haven't really played Gears 5. I'm assuming none of the three of you would even have it on your top 10 at all, right?
No, I wouldn't, but I
No.
would not. I would not be opposed to being top 5 at all.
I can
No,
acknowledge.
Seriously.
It's
Yeah.
it's
So
in
I'm-
my
I'm-
I mean, it's definitely not even in my top 20. Well,
So I'm
I guess
trying
I
to get a
should beat
feel
it.
for. I feel like with
God.
Gears, I
Damn.
feel like Gears and Death Stranding were in the same kind of lock, where it's half of
Me
us
too,
have played it
yeah.
and loved it, the other half don't care about it.
I completely agree. Yeah, I
I
completely
mean,
agree.
but again, like
So then
you
that
ha-
means Sekiro should pass them all.
no.
What?
Shush.
No, that means
I think
that means
objectively it's
of
the
these
better
three.
game.
That's
we're
how it won
discussing,
Game of the Year.
Of the,
It just-
Voters are just
People
like,
were
you know what?
divided
Never
and they
mind. I don't want to
decided-
argue.
Take Sekiro to the top.
it's so true.
Well,
Well,
whatever. That game was the most best reviewed game of the year.
so of these three in the middle we're discussing, I think that means that the only real detractor of Control so far is Derek. I think that means Control goes above both of these.
I think so too.
Yep.
personally.
I'm on board
I'm
with that.
okay.
I mean,
with
well,
let me just
I
say this. While
Knew I'd
I
have to
think
compromise on
You
Death Stranding
guys have
anyway.
been annoying.
I'll probably like
about
Death Stranding
Control.
more once I beat it, but like Control's.
I
right now is a better
finished the
game.
game. In fact, Control was like the first game I think this year I got kind of hooked on and finished it within like a week of release.
Dang, that says a
Um,
lot.
But so I do like the game a lot. I just find it just ended in a disappointing way. And then when I saw all these people coming out, even media saying this is amazing, I'm like, what? Oh, I just don't.
That's the thing, Derek. It didn't sell well though. So
It's
if you're
because
afraid
of
of it
women.
being
That's what
over,
it is.
if you're like afraid of it being like over popular, like that's not the
No,
case.
I
It,
kinda
it
wanted-
completely bombed.
I
so
want
like,
it to succeed. I didn't want it to bomb for sure.
well, it bombed, so that's what happened.
Yeah, it is a bummer.
I mean, yeah. Unfortunately,
anybody-
critics really enjoyed it, but like people didn't buy it. So
I'm wondering what the numbers are actually on.
I agree.
It
I
never
didn't
made
think it was
top
that
20.
bad, but
It actually never made top 20 NPD October, November, or December. Not once did it make it.
Jeez.
That's only
That's
physical,
too bad.
though, right?
It's so good.
Yeah. It's a very good game, yeah. And like, whereas like, I'm not calling Luigi's Mansions out. It made the top 15, and that's only on one system, whereas
Wow.
Control's on 3 different platforms.
Right.
yeah,
So,
that's a good
Well,
point.
just to show you how like nobody cared
It's a
about that
niche
game.
style of game.
That game's a massive bomb. You know.
I'm just saying when
but
you look at even looking at the cover of it, it's not going to appeal to everybody. It doesn't have massive.
not at all. Even when you watch like trailers, like
Don't
you're
put
like,
a woman
"Oh,
on
Yeah,
the
it's
cover if
weird.
you want to
It's
sell
I
it.
don't do drugs. I'm not going to play that. You know, like
Hashtag
actually-
women are trash. All right, so where I think we landed with these middle three. So our top three, not in order yet. Resident
Good.
Evil, Star Wars, and Outer Worlds. I hope they're not in order yet. And then the next three are Control, Gears, and Death Stranding, which I think is a fair place to land, specifically because, for example, Derek is saying not big fan of Death Stranding, but I like Gears, and I'm not as big a fan of Control. But more of us like Control, so that goes above all of them. But then I'm going to give Gears the edge in our tiebreaker because Derek lost out on Control. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
I lost out on everything. You guys have freaking Borderlands 3 at 10 and Sekiro at 9. So
That's
I
what
lost
You
those
out.
actually elected
Those aren't-
Borderlands 3 to be at 10. That was actually your idea.
Those
I
aren't-
know, but I can sense where it was going.
Stop crying. Those aren't set yet. Okay, so we've got Devil May Cry 5, Fire Emblem, Sekiro, and Borderlands. I've played all four of these. I think they are all excellent games. My personal order is what you're seeing right here. Devil May Cry 5, Fire Emblem, Sekiro, Borderlands 3.
I'm fine with that.
But I love all four. They're all
definitely
really,
better
really good.
than-
They're all really
Yeah,
fun.
I like those,
I really
and
like all four of
I'm
these.
okay with that order too.
I'm definitely not okay with that order.
Tell me what order you would give
What's
there.
your order, Derek?
Well, Borderlands 3, of course, would be top, and then
Okay.
Sekiro, and then Fire Emblem, or then Devil May Cry, and then Fire Emblem.
So almost the reverse, but not quite.
Yeah. So what does that tell you about my personality?
Well, I want to get a feel in the group for how we feel about Sekiro. I know that Derek and I both really like it a lot. I think Derek likes
I
it
like
more
it a
than
lot.
I do. I think, Dan, you like it too, right?
Yeah, no, I really like the game. It's just I am not good at it, and but I'm not
That's exactly my
I'm not faulting the game at all for that. I definitely think I could persevere and go farther forward in it. I think everything it does it very well. I'm just not that good of a gamer, I guess.
Well, we knew that.
I think the
I'm
game
glad
tests
you said all that out
patience
loud,
and
'cause I would never say that out loud. But
Just
that's
kidding.
exactly where I'm at.
Yep,
Dan,
no,
so.
no, I am. I'll eat that one. So
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel in every way. So,
Yeah.
like I just suck.
So, Derek, if we kept Sekiro lower, it does sound like everyone generally enjoys Borderlands 3. I don't think
know,
there's any
I would-
qualm with putting that one up higher at all.
yeah, I would put Borderlands over Devil May Cry. I mean, just my
Oh, really?
personal
Okay.
preference. I didn't, I don't mind Devil May
Nope.
Cry, but I did
Nope.
not
There
have
goes
as much
DFC.
fun.
Nope.
So what
That's
if
just
we,
me, though.
What if we had Devil May Cry 5 and Borderlands 3 at a pretty close 6 and I guess that's
let's
7
vote
and 8.
over it. Let's vote like who likes what better. I like Borderlands 3 more than Devil May Cry 5.
I do too.
You're gonna give this to Randy Pitchford? Really? That guy?
Yeah.
I don't like
So
that
it's-
guy at
he
all.
loved
but
child porn
that
anime.
game
So
is
this
fun.
is okay. This is
allegedly. Allegedly, I'm
This
sorry.
is
allegedly.
DMC 5 versus Borderlands 3. We're going to take a vote. We'll start reverse alphabetical, so I'll go first. I'm going to vote for Devil May Cry 5 on this one. So, Kyle?
Devil May Cry 5, but I adored Borderlands 3. I think it's a lot of fun.
Jeff?
Devil May Cry 5.
Oh, we lost, Dan. We lost.
Phillips?
I'm gonna go Borderlands 3.
Freitas?
I mean,
Okay.
obviously, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, you already put it in there, yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, he didn't
I already,
even
I already said get Borderlands off this list entirely.
All
All
right,
right, that
well,
wasn't, yeah.
that's what it is then.
Hey guys, I just want to let you know we have an
what
open
it is.
position starting next week for this podcast.
Derek, I'm
All right, let
available
me ask-
Sunday night.
Sorry, Dan.
Let
I'm
me
not
ask the
apologizing
same.
to Derek. Sorry, Dan.
You know,
Let me
you can
ask
just
the
trade
same
out Dan's,
thing.
and you wouldn't have to, really change much.
Let me ask the same thing for Borderlands 3 versus Fire Emblem. So we'll start this time with Derek. Borderlands 3 or Fire Emblem?
Oh, Borderlands 3.
Freitas?
Fire Emblem. I haven't even played it. Well, I haven't played either, actually. I haven't played either one, to be fair.
All right, well, you don't get the vote on this one.
Yeah,
He
let's
chose-
skip
no,
the
he
people that
chose
haven't
wisely.
played one
No,
of them.
he chose right. No, count it.
Phillips.
I'm gonna go Borderlands 3.
Teague?
Borderlands 3.
Wait, did we already count you?
It doesn't matter. Count me again.
Jeff?
My first vote, I was dead.
Jeff?
Well, I didn't play Fire Emblem, so I kind of have to vote for Borderlands 3.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. It doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Borderlands 3.
Wow,
It's
so that's
just-
3 versus 3.
It's not an educated opinion.
Kyle?
It's Fire Emblem for me, hands down.
Yeah, for me, it's also Fire Emblem, but since Freitas is a no vote,
Wait,
Borderlands
no,
3
no, no, no.
goes-
Hold on. I get
Yeah.
to vote? How do I not get to vote?
You didn't
No,
play
you
either
really
one.
don't.
Oh, well, then
It
it's
would have
even out
tied
anyways.
and Borderlands 2 could have cut it. That's fine.
To me, it's basically a tie. I kind of knew that would be the case. So it's even if it's a 3-3 tie, which is what it would have ended up being. Borderlands 3 got a ton of our community votes, so we're gonna give it some love and
It's a
throw
lot
it.
of fun. It's a good game. It's a good.
It is.
And then that leaves us with Sekiro. Right now, it's sitting in the last place, which I know is not going to be approved by the Game Awards folks.
Not approved by me.
Or
I
our
don't
listeners, I guess.
But
The listener.
I think
Or,
for
or,
us,
or all the reviewers of the game industry, apparently.
I don't know. I mean, for our list and what we've put these other games through, I think it's fine sitting at 10.
I think so too. Yeah. Hey, raise your hand if you beat this game. Okay, exactly.
It's
exactly.
more on
None
here
of us
out
beat
of
it,
fear
so-
and
Then it
respect.
deserves to be
Yeah.
number 10. Am
I
I
spent,
right?
I spent
I beat
30
it 13
hours with
times
it, and I
now.
got past the first
This
boss.
game needs
so.
an easy mode.
Yeah,
I mean,
oh my
I
God.
play. I would actually.
How
take
dare you, Tim? Artistic integrity.
it. I mean, I put over 20 hours in it. I beat a few
I put
main
14 in,
bosses. I beat 14 of the small mini bosses.
Mhm.
I put a lot of work
Wow.
into it, but I just feel like it played perfectly. It looked perfectly. It's
I
perfect.
have nothing bad to say about this game. It's more so just like it beats me, and I hate it for that.
Yep.
So.
No, exactly.
You also
I'm with
respect
Kyle.
So
it.
you're
It's
going
like
to
a
punish
respect
it by
choice.
putting it in
Yeah,
last.
punish it by putting it at 10.
No, I think
Yeah, I
it's-
punish it by
Yeah.
making it like
We
I'm
put it
actually
on we put it on hard. We put the difficulty on hard for this game.
I'm actually
Yeah.
surprised that it won at the Game Awards because it is not, in my opinion, a mass appeal type of
It isn't, but if you
game.
look at Metacritics, it is the most
Yep.
high-rated game of
Yep.
the year, which is crazy to me.
Yep.
Because it's not a mass appeal game like you're saying.
Yeah,
That-
it
that's what is.
spurred a
It's
whole
critically-
debate about
yeah, critically
difficulty
acclaimed.
and everything.
All right, here
like
comes
It
the
did,
difficult
yeah.
part, guys. We've got our top 3. Is there any objection to these being the top 3, number 1? Resident Evil 2,
no.
Star Wars, and
To-
Outer
A little
Worlds.
The only
surprised about Resident
objection-
Evil 2, but that's fine.
The only
That's
objection I would make is I not that I have anything against Resident Evil 2, but it is a remake and
I
everything,
would not
and
put
I
it
give the edge to
there.
Star Wars in that.
Ooh,
And I just like Star
Dan
Wars
Phillips
better
throwing out some
overall,
shady politics.
Hold
right
on.
now. This
So
is
you
some
could-
I'm just
shady
saying,
politics.
like, I have weird like list mechanics, and like I would never allow a remake to win. Game
Well,
of
so
year.
the thing
That's
is,
just
though, like, yeah, you can say that it's a remake of something that had existed before, but Star Wars has existed before, and then this game is
No,
just based
stop
off.
But it's not a
previous lore.
remake. It's
So-
an original story,
Stop
and
it
how
with
it
that.
pieces
No,
things
it's an
together.
original
It does it
story.
in an
but
original
it's a
way.
story that's picking back off of lore that has existed for 30 years.
Sure, but Resident Evil 2 is literally a remake. Like,
Well,
scene for
Okay,
scene,
Yep.
almost.
but so
well,
to
not
defend,
really.
to
They,
defend,
they fleshed some stuff out.
to defend
They
Derek
do.
and Daniel
To
on
be
this
fair,
one,
They do. You're right. They do.
so defend them on this one. It plays completely differently from the
That's
old Resident
why
Evil.
I
games.
have-
It
It does.
absolutely
and
does.
The mechanics are 100% different.
It's
but
it's
like-
a completely different experience.
The original game to me now is obsolete. Like, the only reason I'd even pop it in is just to show someone, like, this is what it looked like before, and look at it
Yeah.
now. Like,
Let me
I
say
couldn't
this.
agree
Let me
more.
say this.
I would never go back to the
Going
original.
back to
It
like
was-
best story, what did all of us say like right away?
Trash.
We're like Resident Evil
Yeah.
2, you don't play that game for the story, right?
Yeah.
That's why to me this game, like, even though we're like it's literally just doing the same story over and over, it doesn't matter. Like, none of us played it for the story. We played it because it's a haunting, atmospheric,
Still not getting here, though.
amazing,
And it does it
shooter.
well, but I played, how many Resident Evil games that are very similar? They might not be as refined as this one,
Game of the Year is the
That's
whole
the thing,
package,
like-
and we're not. None of us are going. The story's amazing. So
Yep,
I mean,
Star
I don't know why
Wars
we're-
was
I
the
was
whole
spearheading
package.
the story is not great, but guess what? I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and I think the ludicrous story is great.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
stupid.
All right.
You know, so like I'm just trying to be objective.
Yeah,
you know?
you're
Like,
right. And
I'm
sometimes
like
the camp
cheering.
is actually a good thing. Like
I
sometimes
love
works.
it. I love it. I'm
Yeah.
eating it. I'm eating it up. You know, I love it.
Don't ever do that again. First of all,
Nom, nom.
don't do that again. So here's the thing. I don't.
So
So I don't
Outer
knock.
Worlds is number one.
I don't want us to.
It's mine. So
So I don't want to
It's my
knock
number one.
Resident Evil 2 for being a remake. I think we should set that aside for this particular conversation. It shouldn't be a negative against it because I think it is enough of a original experience that shouldn't be on the table.
I think it breaks
That's fair.
through the identity of
That-
what an actual remake is. It's a rebuild.
And
that being
I
said-
think that's fine.
Yeah.
That being said, I know that there's a lot of Jeff. Are you a big Resident Evil series fan?
not until 7, honestly, because I never played any of them.
What
before.
about
7.
2? Do you like 2?
Yeah, it's in my top 10. It's just not Game of the Year.
Dan Phillips, you a Resident Evil fan?
I'm a big Resident Evil fan. Been playing them since the first one.
And
I
you
love.
played 2, right?
Yep. Love the series. I thought
All right,
it was
so I'm
great.
I'm
Still
risking
not.
making everyone upset here for a second. Can we, as someone who's not a huge fan of this series, but I did surprisingly enjoy 7. I'm glad Derek made me play that one. 7 was actually a lot of fun and very spooky, and I kind of liked. It just felt different than other RE games I had played.
Same.
Sure.
Okay, so I played 2 for a couple of hours before these conversations, knowing that I needed to get some experience in it, so I don't just write it off.
Here we go.
What makes this game so special compared to other zombie games? Why is this one given so much love? Because hang on, it does not have some incredible lore that I want to go read the books right away. We talked about that. It does not have some insane gameplay mechanic that is so much better than other third-person shooters I've played. There's not even really a cover mechanic. I actually get very frustrated that I have perfect aim against certain zombies, but they still get back up, so headshots mean nothing. And I kind of like in zombie games when they mean something. So I don't feel like there's a good amount of skill involved. I feel like I'm constantly running, scrounging for ammo, always stressed out, and not honestly having a ton of fun compared to Dying Light, Left 4 Dead, some of these other zombie games that are out there that I think they do it better. Explain to me why Resident Evil 2 is so amazing. Somebody.
Damn.
There's a
Wasn't
difference
gonna go that
between
far.
empowerment and survival, and that's what you're describing. You're describing you like playing zombie games where you feel empowered.
Dying
which is
Light was
and all
terrifying
those
because I
things.
was always trying to
It
survive.
is. At first, because at night it's spooky, but by
Yes.
the end of that game, like you're in God mode.
But I'm talking about most of my Dying Light experience was early in the game. I never beat that game. So I still
Okay,
like a good
sure.
survival experience. I hear that. The
I
actual
feel you.
game
I feel you.
gameplay moment to moment, zombies are coming at you, you're aiming your gun. Is it really that better than
Well-
that much
Well,
better than other games?
and it's not that. It's not a shooter, so it's not going to be this like precise like kind of game or whatever. I think someone brought up the exact word earlier. It's atmosphere. You know, like the Resident Evil
That
series
someone
has an
has a name.
atmosphere.
His name's Derek.
I didn't know who did it, but
Damn.
Derek, if it was you, damn it, you are right,
Oh,
sir.
he wasn't talking about Greedfall when he said that?
Oh yeah, I see. I thought if I knew I was talking about Greedfall, I'd be like, Derek obviously said this. Anyways, I think atmosphere is like the big thing, and like we talked, I think you brought up the word lore. The game has bad story. The series has great lore.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but it's great.
It's not even just it's not just this one game. Like this is a
Is
city.
it great lore?
Hold on, so
Is it-
this
It's
is a
great.
city.
No. It is deep and it's weird and it's stupid, but like it is all.
But this is
like,
a city that gets.
and I mean stupid as in campy. That word again.
the city
you
gets
know, like-
decimated from what happens at a mansion, but it's actually in an underground secret lab. So it stems from that.
Yeah,
So like
okay,
here's
fair.
a city where
Yeah.
everyone is just living their lives, and then suddenly
But all the again, it's all the memos
Yeah.
and all the things that you're
Yeah.
reading. You're like, man, there's way more people involved in this umbrella
Oh, yeah.
corporation, and there's all these shell companies like
Yep.
in Resident Evil that feed the money into umbrella. Like it's
different
it's really
types of
actually
viruses.
complex. There's different types of viruses, different, and like they're all compartmentalized. So like none of the projects really know anything about each other.
Yep.
So like it's just there's a lot of really cool stuff
And-
going on in the series, and it gets wacky. Don't get me wrong, but at the end you're throwing the main bad guy into a volcano, and he pops out as like a giant Mordor beast.
And
You know,
I'm
So,
not
like, it gets
opposed to
stupid,
any
don't
of
get me wrong.
that. I'm really
Tim,
not.
Yeah,
But
me
Tim,
neither.
to
I
speak-
love it, but like I'm saying, it gets, and that's what I mean by it gets stupid. But like it is a story, and it does make sense, and it is
Mhm.
consistent in like how it builds like its universe. It's just the story itself, like in Resident Evil 2, it's like, well, an FBI gal shows up, and I'm running away from this guy, and like this corporation's kind of bad, and like, oh, the police station has like, there's really not much going on there.
But I do want to add on something that Tim said. Like, Tim, you're like, hey, I'm playing this and I'm shooting them in their head and they're popping back up. You got to remember, as you play the game, you are not only, solving puzzles and all that stuff, you're also unlocking
new weapons. Yes. That's what I was trying to say.
The game is gonna upgrade as well, based off of how you explore.
You
can play the entire
get better
game
at fighting things in
and
that game.
miss certain weapons, miss certain upgrades.
Okay, that's good.
So
that's a good
as
point.
you upgrade your weapons or get better weapons, those headshots become deadly headshots.
The thing,
yeah,
well,
fair.
if you really think about it, Resident Evil, like when that first came to be, it was like, this is a Metroid game with a horror element.
Yes.
Like just straight up a zombie horror element. That's what it is. It's a Metroidvania game with puzzles, and it's
No,
that's
and
what it is.
that's totally
you're
the
always
appeal
going
for the
back.
series for me, is because that's what
Yeah.
they've always done so well in the exploration, and finding this jewel, or where does it go, or this chess piece, and how these puzzles, and I liked all that. And then the more that you solve and find in that game, you get different weapons, flamethrowers, and all sorts of fun stuff, and you just start wrecking everything. And that, to me, that's always been the appeal, is the Metroid-like elements with this horror mixed in.
Yeah.
So there is
and then
there
there's
is an
this
element of
arcade-
being empowered to make the game more fun.
Well, yeah, that's the
There
thing.
is,
you
there
might
is.
find certain
But
weapons, and you might
grow
not find
into
some.
it.
Yeah, but honestly, the second playthrough in about every Resident Evil game is always the better one, because you can usually have different unlocks, cheats, better weapons.
And that's the thing. The Resident Evil 1 and 2 are built like arcade games. They're built for you to replay them again with like the stuff that you carry over. Not always like everything from your game before, but the things that you unlock from that first game playthrough. 3 is going to be different. Tim, I think you're going to feel a lot different about 3. It's going to be really action oriented. There's going to be ammo. There's going to be ammo everywhere. I think you're going to like 3. So like if 2's not resonating with you, or it's just not like, this still feels like icky, I think 3 is going to feel like the game that you thought maybe this one should feel like.
2,
let me just give you my perspective real quick. 2, I think controls fine. I think it's spooky enough, but none of those things. In the short time I played, I realized I didn't even get through half the game. I didn't really level up a bunch of stuff, but it never really did any of them exceptionally in the first. So maybe it's just a game that if you're not already nostalgic for the series and know what's coming, maybe
it might be that.
You got to push through. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a ton of people that had never played Resident Evil 2 that were like, they're fanboying over this game now.
Yeah, that's fair.
You're right, but I never count nostalgia out. Like, it's just it's a very powerful
and it's a big reason why I like the game.
Here's what I'm saying. If this game weren't called Resident Evil 2 and weren't made by Capcom, I wonder if it would be getting all the love that it's getting.
I think
I would love it. I know I would.
Yeah, I think it would.
It's
like if it were totally unconnected, no umbrella, no City.
If it had that gameplay, I would still love it in the package.
These are
that's the big test, and it sounds like it passes. So that's legit. That's fine.
Yeah.
I also want to mention for Resident Evil 2, guys, the thing is like the campaign's kind of short. It's like 6 to 8 hours depending on you explore. But I absolutely love, and this is something a lot of games don't do anymore, is you play the campaign with one of the characters, and then they want you, and Kyle was talking about this, how your second playthrough will be different. They were encouraging you to play again. They literally are encouraging you to play again because they want you to play with the other character. And then when you play with that other character, it is more combat than it is survival. Don't get me wrong, there is more survival. Like, for instance, I think I played with
Leon?
Claire first. Then I played with Leon second. And when I was playing through the second playthrough with Leon, I was like, damn, I got all this ammo. I'm killing it. And then all of a sudden, Wrecking Ball is in my face every 5 seconds, and I found out I had no ammo because I was shooting and trying to survive every 5 seconds, and it became more frustrating. There was just more ammo at first, and it is correct. Like, I was a noob because I was like, well, I've got all this ammo. And so I became a little more loose with my ammo.
I'll tell you what,
a little more liberal with the shot.
I've discovered one way to really get people to make a really compelling argument for a game is to slightly insult it. And boy, you guys made a really good case for this game. You really did.
Well, Tim,
wasn't that you insulted it? It's just that you're ignorant, and we needed to correct you.
That's
Tim, you're
fine
an
too.
Tim, you're
But
an
listen,
ignorant slut. is what
Tim,
you are.
I feel like it's a game that if you got a little more into, you would recognize.
I
and you
really
probably
think you
already
would like it.
I
You
have
would
no
recognize the
problem with this
atmosphere.
game being in our top 3. Like, if I have to pick,
Yeah.
of course, I'm going to put it at 3 compared to these other 2.
I mean, it's
but
not even in my top 3, but,
but
like
that
I'm just-
being said,
people are really cheering.
I'm saying
for it.
legitimately,
I'm
if you
more
want to
than
hear
happy.
someone make an impassioned case for a game that they love, just question it at its core, why it's good. That's all you have to do. Okay, that was a really good case you guys just made for RE2. I've heard some good cases made for Outer Worlds already when we talked about story and things like that. Anything to add to Outer Worlds and why it should or should not be above RE2? And I didn't hear a lot from Jeff on that last one because it sounds like everyone else was taking care of business for him. So Jeff, what do you think Outer Worlds and why would it be higher or lower than RE2, all that kind of stuff, and Star Wars?
Well, I do want to say that with Resident Evil 2, like I said before, I didn't have any experience with that franchise until 7. So the fact that I like it so much that I put it in my 10 at all, I think speaks to the point that you were making earlier about would the love still be there if it were whatever. People swear by the game regardless if they're into the franchise or not. Is what
Yep.
I think Derek was saying that. So
Yep.
Yeah,
anyway,
the really smart guy. Yeah.
I don't
Everyone's
care.
quoting Derek tonight. This is
I don't
weird.
care.
I know
don't
it's
care.
crazy. You keep insulting me, and yet you come back to me.
What should I buy next, Derek?
But Outer Worlds, I think I think the sharp writing of almost every single character that you interact with is why I gravitated towards that game and wanting to see that through to the end, especially, and why I put it up at my number 1. But like every person you interact with has a story. Just the rando bartender, the person you run into that's just hanging out next to the bar or something that just says something aloud, and you can't even talk to them. But everybody has like a story. Everything's so thought out, and they cast the voice cast so perfectly for every character. I don't know. That game just pulled me in more than any other game this year.
I think it's the smartest game this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I when I saw the trailer, I go, "This game's gonna be really cool." When I played it, I go, "I can't believe I just played one of the best games I played in like the last few years."
Right,
like seriously,
right.
I think it's one of the best games of the.
And
year.
do you remember, Kyle? Because the build up to the game coming out was like you were already on the hype station, the hype train or whatever. And I was just kind of like,
I'm on the hype thing for everything.
Right, that's true. But I was
Jeff,
just
you
kinda
were standing on the platform at the hype
whatever,
station.
You know,
okay, you were at the platform at the station. Kyle was on the train, like, "Come on, man!
Yep.
Oh, Paul,
Yeah.
like, come on, jump on!"
I was like, I don't know. The ticket might be a little expensive for me. I don't know. It doesn't. It looked okay to me, but then getting the hands-on experience and immediately meeting Parvati and stuff, and obviously we've already talked about how great that character is.
Getting your own ship and kind of starting to see things.
Yeah,
develop.
and then it turns into just Firefly the game, and I love that show. And they
Same.
really executed that perfectly. That's my game of the year personally.
You know, as a person who, and I will fully admit this, I've never been hugely drawn in by the Fallout series. I admire what those games do, but they've just never been my thing. I really enjoyed the time I've played so far with Outer Worlds, and I have not uninstalled it. I 100% plan on getting back into it and playing it some more. This game is very deserving of all the love it gets. Maybe it's going to end up our number 1, I don't know. But it's not on my personal top 3, but I would put it above RE2. So I do want to give it the respect it deserves, and that is it's a very, very good game. It's just the actual combat is not my favorite. Like I don't think the guns are that great. Right. They're fine, but I don't think they're that great. Shooting isn't all that fun, and you know the freeze time powers and all that. It's all fine, but none of it is super compelling.
Let me comment on that, because if you remember when the game launched, I played like 8 hours the first day, and I was high about this game. I was like, "This game is amazing! It's the smartest game. I love it." Blah blah blah. And then as we kept going through the show, and I didn't have as much free time, I started kind of getting a little more negative, and my big negative was the combat. I was like, this game is just not fun to play. Like, I don't like the guns, blah, blah, blah. I've now come back to it. I've had 2 separate sessions with the game, and I've played them for a good amount of time, and I'm absolutely having a blast with the combat. And what it is I don't like the science weapons. I don't like the way
those are terrible. Yeah, I never use them.
I don't know why they make such a big deal about it, too. Yeah,
but everything else actually plays really good. Not okay.
Well, and
I agree with
not
that.
all right,
I'm not
like
saying it's
Fallout.
the best shooting in the world, but like it's serviceable
Again,
and it does its job.
It's not to say it was
and
bad.
The focus,
I just don't think it's great.
Yeah,
I
no,
also
no,
like
and I totally agree with you. Like if when you're playing Call of Duty this year, which I've been playing, you guys, like, and you play like Outer Worlds, you're like, well, obviously Call of Duty shoots better, but like. Also, Call of Duty is all about shooting,
Yeah.
This game's really about dialogue and RPG, like really role-playing your character and stuff like that.
I still think this game has really good shooting if you do not
I think
use
so, too.
science weapons.
It's like Disco Elysium, but in first
I think
person
it's
with
serviceable.
shooting.
Yeah.
More or less, yeah.
It's literally
the
what
writing
it
is almost
yeah.
on par with that because Disco Elysium is written by novelists, so it's kind of like a
Right.
cheat. It's like a steroid writer. But this one really does, compete with that in terms of dialogue.
It's very funny.
Grander story for
I can't believe
several
whenever you
planets.
when you come back to planets, like people have new things to say.
By the way,
it's so insane how much dialogue was written for this game.
I've heard that it's a good
insane
idea
me.
to put on the Moon Kid mask or whatever that thing is and go talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's a good idea to try any really set of outfits because they react to you differently in every place you go. It seems like
I'm telling you, like this is the most RPG of all RPGs.
Yeah.
Like it's insane to me.
It's in my top 3 for sure.
No,
honestly, I have a feeling when I beat it, it's gonna end up beating out Borderlands.
Whenever
3.
you see your endings like pay off, because that's the thing, like your endings will pay off, and I can't even ruin it for you because your game is your game.
Derek's ending is just he builds a spaceship.
You'll be like,
with
by the way,
bodies
remember
of
when you
his
did this for these people? It did this.
It's just
Hey,
gonna
by
turn.
the way-
The screen's just gonna turn black, and it's gonna say, "You were a."
Jeez.
I might edit
not
that
gonna
one
be
out.
wrong.
Yeah, that deserves an edit.
That one I might go. No, the ending of Derek's game is just going to be him alone on a planet. It's like, you've killed everyone in the galaxy. You're all alone now.
Yeah, you're all alone. Good luck.
Yeah.
Here's your trash planet you live on, you piece of trash.
And it's gonna be hashtag women are trash because I am playing a female character.
So we've heard
Hey, you
some.
chose that.
We've heard some RE2
How
love.
brave of you.
We've heard some Outer Worlds love. Dan, I'm going to throw it to you to get us started. Give me some Star Wars Fallen Order love.
Okay, so I am, beyond a huge Star Wars nerd. I love the franchise. I love the universe. So a first-person Star Wars game was just, had me excited from the start. Everything that this game does lived up to my expectations and was what I wanted it to be. These kind of games are definitely the kind of games I gravitate more towards. I like the Tomb Raider, Uncharted. Not maybe so much narrative driven, but exploration, third person combat, action adventure. And this game just hit all those notes for me. I love the lightsaber combat. It's not on a level of Dark Souls, but it performs very well for a first person shooter developer to go make a melee combat game. I thought they did exceptional.
Great point.
And
Feels more like The Witcher.
and and I totally agree with that, but I like how they did the combat. I'm fine. It's its own thing. I think they did great. The characters and story, I think they really nailed it there. It carried all the way through very well. The exploration and Metroidvania aspects of the game, I wanted to see every nook and cranny of this. I loved coming up to a wall or a rope that I couldn't access and go, okay, well, I'll be back to you. And then every time you would get an upgrade or something and you would travel back to those planets, go finding those things that you missed out on the first time, they always rewarded you back through, whether it was another stim pack or more force power, whatever it was. They were rewarding you for this extra exploration, and it just totally kept everything going, the momentum the whole way through, and I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah.
By the time I was in that final level, I almost felt that final level kind of went too quick, was a little too linear, but I still just enjoyed so much of that story and everything that it did wrapping up there that I couldn't fault it for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I've always loved about video games is when it gives you that moment of surprise, delight, that exhilaration. That's like, holy crap, I wasn't expecting that. Those are usually my favorite moments and what create my favorite games. I think The Witcher did that with certain side quests. Everyone talks about the Bloody Baron. That was certainly like there's a whole bunch of moments in my favorite games ever that gave me that, I can't believe that just happened. All the way back to like Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo. Certain moments in that game that just were like, that was amazing. It fills you with delight. It's exhilarating. And I think Star Wars, of the 3 games we've got left, again, I haven't finished Resident Evil 2 or The Outer Worlds, so maybe these do this more than I'm aware of. But I feel like Star Wars provided so many moments of surprise, delight, and exhilaration. That's exactly what I personally want in a video game.
Yep.
And they delivered on it. And it was all encapsulated in a game that's got, I think, great combat, but you have to at least admit has solid combat if it's not your favorite style. I think the combat's great. It's got fantastic exploration, tons of little Easter eggs that are hidden all over the place. You talked about lore and recordings and all that stuff. That's certainly there. You got different planets to explore, and I don't think it overstays its welcome. Games like this can at times be either too drawn out or too short. I felt like this game hit that perfect amount of time, and I was really, really eager to find out what happens at the end. I did hit a few frustrating moments, mainly because of the difficulty, because I was stubborn and didn't want to lower the difficulty.
Yeah.
So there was
spikes. No, the difficulty spikes in that game.
There are difficulty spikes that I think could have been
Did you
ironed
play
out
on
a bit.
Jedi Master? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I played on Jedi
I
Master.
started on Jedi Master. Guess what? Didn't end there.
I played on Jedi Master all the way up until the final boss fight. And that
then
final
lowered it.
boss fight, I fought that boss for 30, 40 minutes, and I was just like, I just want
Jeez.
the game to end. So I dropped it
So
down one
this was the
difficulty
kind of-
level and rolled through it.
This is the kind of game that it got its hooks on me so much, and it was just so fun to play each moment, every little new discovery. It's one of those games that makes you wish you didn't have a family and responsibilities and a life to go back to. You just want to
Don't you kind of wish that all the time?
Yeah, maybe. You just want to stay where you are, right there in that game.
Absolutely.
And I think this game did that for me in a way that no other game in 2019 did. So this is, of course, big spoilers. Star Wars is by far my favorite game of the year, and to me, it deserves to be in this number one spot, unless we've got someone who says this shouldn't even be in my top 3. But I feel like,
Well,
It's not in my top 3.
yeah, it's not in mine either. So
okay, fair enough.
It's
Oh,
in my
man.
top 3 for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I struggled to find negatives with this game personally. And so
The only negatives I could find is there lacked a little polish in certain aspects of it, and I don't think
I
it
have
was.
negatives.
And I don't think
over
it
it.
was so bad it took away from the
But
game.
don't you think you could say the same thing about Outer Worlds? That game
Yes,
has a ton
definitely.
of polish that missed around the. If you really dig in
No.
deep in the corners, it's like,
Yeah.
well,
It's
okay.
also the best performing Fallout game ever, which
Yeah, and that
how do
is
they
true.
out Bethesda out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're
that's
right.
pretty crazy. Their
But I'm
very
saying
first
I
try,
wouldn't-
They're like, yeah, we did it.
I wouldn't knock of these 3 games. Resident Evil 2 probably has the overall best performance without those little moments of like, oh, they didn't really pay attention to that.
Yeah, but
corner.
let's be careful where we're going with this, and here's why I say this. And again, it's not because I'm like, oh, I love Outer Worlds more. It's Outer Worlds is doing so much more
oh yeah,
than Star Wars and Resident Evil.
It's not linear.
And I'm not
in
talking
any sense
about
of the imagination.
like the size of the world. I'm talking
Yeah.
about. We've talked about it when we talked about the game, like how smart it is. That
sure.
takes a lot of programming, a lot of
Right.
writing,
Dude,
a lot of
dialogue.
everything.
if you
Dialogue
splatter that on a
together.
wall, it's probably like a freaking spider web, just nonsense. Like that.
I can't even imagine what that storyboard looks
Was
like.
that
So
Sunny,
I want to
meme?
get back real quick to Star
Oh
Wars.
yeah, Pepe, whatever.
What were you
So-
saying, Derek? Go ahead.
Pepe Sylvia.
I just want to say, like with Star Wars, I get it's your game of the year, and
Yeah.
even though we hate each other, no, I don't.
Aw.
I don't respect your opinion most of the time.
Most of the
Where are we going with
That
this?
I know,
that
this
seems
is not
so
sounding
sincere.
good. I knew it was
My
coming.
heart is so full.
All right. So, anyways, what I'm saying is, my opinion on the game is, I think it's good. I don't want to be a hater, but I do have an issue with it. And you could say, oh, it's personal preference, but I really think the game is a letdown with the design of the world. Like,
No,
it's
the
just
world
a
is.
platformer.
No. That's the
in
best
a-
part.
It was so
game.
I
good.
agree.
It was so
No,
good.
that's
the world
worst
design is so
part
perfect.
of
The world
game.
design is one of the best parts
Like, how
of that
many
game.
That's
Star
like
Wars
literally one of
movies
the
have you
pillars of the
watched
game.
that every planet they land on, they're like, well, we got a platform to get to where we gotta go.
It was great. They did a
No.
great job with the platform and
Sounds
the
like you hated
Every
traversal.
Uncharted.
planet
too.
is a platform? Are you serious, guys? No. So that's
Are
why
you-
I hate that game.
It's not even that much platforming. It's kind
It's
of like when
not.
people go, Death Stranding is I mean,
Walking simulator?
it's a fairer point, but you don't like. It doesn't take that long to walk from point A to point B in Death Stranding, for example.
And you have vehicles too.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's just
yeah,
fun. That's just
like-
fun to make fun.
Jedi doesn't have that much platforming. Like it's just a little
Like-
bit of the levels.
Every,
Yeah.
every
right.
planet that I've explored, which I've done, I think 4, had a lot of platform.
There is.
I'm
there-
sorry you had to jump. Derek. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You had to jump in some.
No,
Do
there's
not fake apologize.
no. In Derek's defense, I think there is a good amount of platforming. I didn't mind it. I thought it was well done. It's
I
usually
think it's a healthy amount.
It's a puzzle solving related. It's not just
I
simply
think it's
the jump.
environmental.
Yeah, no, it's a traversal puzzle.
Yeah.
All the platforming is how do you
100%.
get where you want to go?
A couple negatives though. I can't find a lot, but there was a couple. Like sometimes the hit detection was a little off as I'm battling, and I feel like they kind of missed on that one.
Yeah.
Well, and there was some like where it guides you,
Yep.
and like you may have not like connected, but it's like I'm gonna get you there anyways.
One of the biggest ones is any kind of hanging vine, and eventually you get a power to kind of pull it closer to you. But
Thank goodness, yeah.
thank goodness, because without that, I could hardly ever hit the vines, and I would fall, lose all
Same.
the health.
I don't want to talk about it, but same. Yeah. I feel really stupid because I'm like I keep on missing. I've died 7 times on this sliding thing.
All that to say, I do think this game had way more. Dan, you were talking about how you wanted to discover every little corner of these worlds. I thought it had a lot more exploration opportunity and completely optional. You can dig down into this cave. And by the way, do you know if you go back behind this area, there's a whole new slew of things to find. I think they did it.
Optional bosses?
Yes,
optional
there's optional bosses everywhere.
I love that stuff.
And also, slight spoiler here. After a certain point of the game, you begin to be hunted by a group of bounty hunters, and they will pop up all over the place as you're going back to revisit. And these guys will show up to hunt you, sometime in groups of more than one boss at a time. And those were scary and thrilling, sometimes annoying, all at the same time. I loved them.
I loved them when they showed up.
But they're like, I'm telling you, they're kind of Boba Fett-like.
Some of them are.
You know, some of them are, yeah.
So anyway, all
Very
that to say, what I'm hearing from these 3, and we do need to kind of come to a consensus on our top 3, and we're never going to always agree. Our top 3s are all going to look different. I kind of love that. But it sounds like the number 1 game of this year, based on everything I heard, is probably The Outer Worlds, followed by Star Wars, followed by Resident Evil 2. That's what it sounds like to me based on everything I just heard. Am I off? Am I way off?
Well, Daniel and I have Resident Evil 2 at number 1.
Right, and Dan and I have Star Wars. At number 1.
I have Star Wars at 3, so.
Yeah, I don't have Resident Evil even in my top 10.
Actually, I have Star Wars at like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
so.
with what Tim's saying though, I don't think that order. I think that order does make sense. I mean, to me, I would
because
definitely
we all loved Outer Worlds, right? Does anyone not like?
And we're split more on Resident Evil and Jedi, so I would.
No, I agree. I think Outer Worlds is our number 1 game.
It is based on everything we just said. Because to me, it's in my top 10. I just forget where. It's probably in the 5 range or something like that. 4. It's pretty high. It's like I love that game.
Star Wars is 7 on mine.
Outer Worlds is number 2 on mine, and Star Wars number 1
for me.
It's 5 for me. Yeah, it's pretty high for me.
And I don't even have Resident Evil on my top 10.
Resident Evil 2 is number 2 on my list, but
Resident
really
Evil 2 is number 10 for me.
I got number 3 on it.
It's 8 for me.
You're all dead to me.
Outer Worlds is 1.
You're all dead.
Am
we're Death Stranding, brothers. Don't take that away from me.
Am I the only one with Outer Worlds at 1? Or
yeah, Outer Worlds, Jedi, Resident Evil.
Honestly, though, Jeff,
Right.
I think when I beat Outer Worlds, I think it'll be my number 1.
could be. Maybe you'll be inspired to replay it and be like, maybe I should not kill that guy.
I really want to replay that game bad, but
Again,
like, I know it's gonna take
and the
40
challenge
more
of this
hours
and what kind of makes these fun and interesting is it's not always just averaging out the numbers. We could do that and give it a point system and figure it out, but I'd rather stay away from that unless we really have to and
Let's
get
just
more
do
to
it based off our feelings.
Let's just do it based off of the
Who
Force.
cried the most?
Jedi.
during
Yeah,
Resident
use the
Evil?
Force, Tim. Use the
Force
Can
with
you
no
just tell
training.
what I'm feeling
Use
for
the
him and just take it from there, please?
No, but I'm going based off the cases that were made for and against each one.
Okay.
And it sounded to me like the case against Outer Worlds was weakest, and the cases for Outer Worlds was probably the strongest, if not tied for the
I
strongest.
think Outer Worlds is number 1. It is.
And I feel the same way about, I think Resident Evil and Jedi are pretty much dead even, and the cases made for them.
Why don't we just vote on Star Wars and Resident Evil 2?
Let's do that. Yeah.
I just don't
those
think-
2 games. Outer Worlds are in number 1.
Yeah. What do you like better?
Well, it's basically down to
Outer
Kyle
Worlds?
and Jeff, because we already know it's 2-2. Me and Dan
Yeah.
with Jedi, and Derek and Dan with Resident Evil. Kyle and Jeff, where do you land on these 2?
On Star Wars and Resident Evil, Star Wars for me.
Star Wars, yeah.
All right,
There we
so
go.
there it is.
What a top 3, though.
That is great.
Once
3
again, the
games.
corporate shills win again.
Corporate shells.
Because,
I mean, it
Capcom's
is
not
an
a
EA
company
game.
or anything.
Hey, I do feel dirty about it if that helps. Like,
Listen,
I'm like, yeah,
as
EA,
if Disney-
EA game's pretty good this year,
As if
man.
Disney and Star Wars don't need more attention or money or.
Oh,
Listen,
goodness.
We're just giving props to
Channel.
Respawn. No one else for this.
yeah, Respawn. I just
Yes,
wanna,
just
I wanna reach out,
Respawn.
you know, good job.
Just for
be
Respawn.
honest,
we all know
EA.
that Star Wars.
You know, that struggling little studio that made Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4. You know, we're the guys
To be
that
fair,
do
I
this,
think
man.
EA just needs to let Respawn do all of their properties. Just
Yes,
let them do
yes,
everything.
just
Fair,
give
yeah,
them
okay.
creative control.
I agree with that.
And
yeah.
step
Very
aside.
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
I agree with that.
Well, so let's go over our final list then. We've got. Oh, I forgot to move them around here. We have got Outer Worlds. I was looking at your faces to read your expressions as I asked annoying questions. So let me go back to our list here.
Oh, he's a good listener. That's so sweet.
Shut up. All right. So number 1 is Outer Worlds. Number 2 is Star Wars. Number 3, Resident Evil 2. Number 4, Control. Then Gears 5, Death Stranding, Devil May Cry 5, Borderlands 3, Fire Emblem, Sekiro, Kingdom Hearts 3, and A Plague Tale round out the top 12 of
Yes,
2019.
That's a good list.
That
Guess
is
I'll
dang
accept
good
Good.
list.
I suppose I'll accept it.
Yeah, it's
I will accept it. I will accept
when
that
it comes to
list.
I don't want
sharing a
to,
list
but-
with all our different opinions and the things that we bring
I
into
feel like
game, I mean, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty
definitely.
good.
Where are the
we got a lot
indies?
of different. We got a lot of different play styles here. So yeah.
I'm glad
Right.
we have a lot of bad opinions here, and just.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wind things down. Thank you guys so much for spending so much time on this late Friday
thanks,
evening.
thanks
Four and
for
a
joining
half
us, guys.
hours
Sure.
of just BS.
Is there
I'm
any
drained.
last games that kind of as a catch-all that we missed? We didn't really go over sports or racing or puzzles and all that. But if you had to pick one that you just wanted to shout out, don't talk for more than like 60 seconds. But is there a game that we haven't really talked about in all of our discussions that you just wanted to say, hey, this is something I loved in 2019?
Greed Fall.
No, something you
Talked about
haven't
it
talked
plenty.
about.
No, we talked about
Something
it.
you haven't talked about. Jeff, what about for you? I know you seem to be one of our more indie friendly gamers in the group here.
You can say what you mean. You can say that I have bad taste. That's okay.
I kind of feel like I finally have a kindred spirit because when I talk about indies, especially if I go over the Nindy Directs, Derek's like, "Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!"
Yeah, and some of those are exciting to me. I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
I geek out on
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
So Jeff
I
and
think
Kyle, let's start
we've-
with you guys.
I think we've touched on almost. I mean, the only game that we haven't touched on is Layers of Fear 2 because I really like the first one, and the second one is it's a different setting, but it's still that developer. They did Blair Witch as well. That developer just really knows how to do first-person horror. But it gets a little repetitive. But that's the only one we haven't really talked about. Every other one I've given a fair amount of attention to, one way or another.
Okay, Kyle.
Yeah, in terms of the things we haven't brought up at all, not even kinda, Warhammer Chaos Bane. If you like Diablo, you'll like this game. It's exactly Diablo 3 in every way, except it's got Warhammer painted on it, which, guess what, everybody? Warhammer has better lore and better stories, so
There you go.
check it out. Yeah, Warhammer's great, and this game is really good. I think it's probably going to spin off some cool kind of, like, series going on. We may even get, like, a sci-fi version of it, which is the 40K series, so
Nice.
check it out. It's called Warhammer Chaos Bane.
All right, Phillips. What about you?
Only thing I'd mention is probably my most played, most enjoyed game this year, which was Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah, man.
Not that it was a game from this year, but it did spill over from last year for me. I spent probably the first 3 months of
So
the year
much
with
to
that
do.
game. I did.
It's
I
amazing.
spent
That game's so
I spent
awesome.
about 140 to 150 hours with just the main campaign. And
good.
I did every objective location and side quest within the main game, and I love it. I still have only just kind of started the DLC. I do want to go back to it, but I think that's something I'm going to kind of do here over the January slump before we get some new games.
Freitas, what about you?
Uh,
I know on
Go to
past
Derek.
shows you've talked about Indivisible, but I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know if-
but I don't know if that's one. I don't know. That one's tough to recommend because again, I feel like it was a Kickstarter game and it just had more potential. Like I feel like they could have done so much more with it.
Okay.
They just didn't have the funding for it.
all right.
Um,
We can come back to you, Derek. Do you
Yeah.
have one that we haven't really dug into that you wanted to highlight?
I would say we haven't really dug into it. It's been mentioned a couple times, but I want to give a shout out to Days Gone. It did make my top 10, which I got to be honest with you, when it launched and I started playing it, probably the first 7 hours, I was like, no, this is not that great of a game. I came back to it, I played it, and I just kept playing it, and then I'm like, you know what? Let's just beat the game. And I got to say, the reason I kept playing is it was just fun. Was it repetitive? Yeah, but you could literally say that about every single game. It was repetitive, but the stuff that it was repeating was fun. And the world was cool, and while I hated the characters, and I still hate the characters, the story actually was good. And the way it finished off was, when I walked away from it, I went, you know what? That was a great experience. Like, that's one of those games, and that's why I'm giving it a shout-out, that I'm like, I really hope Sony comes back, maybe gives them a bigger budget, maybe builds the team a little bit more, and they build off of what they already created and make it better. Because I definitely think a sequel to Days Gone could be pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see if they build off of it. Hopefully they do.
I don't know how well it sold. I imagine it sold okay.
Yeah, I think it sold all right. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
All right, so the one game that I would give a shout out to, if you're already a fan of this series, they finally released the last chapter of the Shovel Knight Treasure Trove collection. That's King of Cards. Is finally out. If you like the Shovel Knight games, if you don't play this. If you do like them, then you're going to love this. It's another great addition to those games. I loved Spectre Knight. I loved Plague Knight. I love Shovel Knight. And King of Cards is an absolute blast. You've got this new shoulder charge move that then sends him into a spin so he can bounce a la Shovel Knight, the way he would do it, the way DuckTales, Scrooge McDuck used to do it as well, if you played those games. But and there's also a card game in this. It's called King of Cards for a reason. His whole goal is to win at this new card game called Joustus, which is a very simple yet at times difficult, and can be the strategy can be pretty deep, and basically shifting cards around on a board to claim gems before your opponent can do it. So anyway, all that to say, if you like Shovel Knight, and if you like kind of indie games, the old school platforming style, Yacht Club games delivered again. It's fantastic. I love the King of Cards. So all right, I think that'll just about do it.
Throw out Final Fantasy VIII Remake. Or a remaster, because again, it's a miracle that it even exists. So,
yeah. By the way, I did just buy that. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of card games, that card game, Tri-Ace, is that what it's called?
No, because Tetrameter is from 9. Triple Triad.
That's a fun card game. I think 8 had my favorite card game.
It was way superior to the 1 in 9.
Yeah, 9's card game was nonsensical. 1 and 8 is great. Anyway.
Yeah, 8 has... All right. It's fantastic, yeah.
Well, guys, it's been a good 2019. Jeff and Kyle and Dan Phillips, thank you guys so much for joining us for these extra long recording sessions. Daniel and Derek, hopefully we don't have to see each other for a little while.
I need a break from that.
Next time we do get together, after all these air, the next time we will do a full preview of 2020. Hopefully we'll even have a few more release dates by then.
Do you guys want to go for brunch tomorrow, or... Go for brunch.
Let's do it.
Yeah, go for brunch.
All right.
Thanks for coming out, guys. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. Share with your friends. Rate us on iTunes. All that good stuff. For right now, that'll do it for 2019.
Yeah, Tim. You guys. By the way, because I'm not that nice usually, all three of you were outstanding. I'm not talking about Daniel and Tim.
I don't care.
I don't care. Thank you.
I care. Thank you, Derek. I really appreciate that.
No, seriously.
Thanks, man.
You don't
Thanks
want to
for
wind
having
my sails, bud.
I thought we were entertaining, and I don't usually listen to our show anymore because I get bored with that too.
Don't stop saying these things.
I'm being serious, but I think I'm actually going to try to listen to us.
No, this is fun, guys.
I had a fun time with you guys.
I think we
really
can all just
appreciate
admit that Derek's a giant piece of so.
You sound just like my wife.
That's where she
and
gets
with
that,
we're going to sign off. Thanks, guys.
That's what she said. All right, bye.
Who is your daddy? I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?